Welcome back to Mishnah Review. Today we will be discussing in Masechet Rosh Hashanah, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Dalet. In the previous Mishnayot, the Mishnah told us that there was 6 months that they used to send special messengers in order to let people know when Rosh Chodesh was declared, so people could celebrate the Yomim Tovim properly. Our Mishnah continues more on the halachas of declaring Rosh Chodesh. The Mishnah tells us, Al Shnei Chodashim Mechalalin et HaShabbat. There are 2 months during the year that witnesses who saw the new moon on Friday night are allowed to violate the Shabbos. What does that mean? Exactly, that they're allowed to violate the Shabbos. So we know there's a halacha known as Tchum Shabbat. What is Tchum Shabbat? Tchum Shabbat means that a person is not permitted to walk out of city limits more than 2,000 amot. That was the distance of the camp of Bnei Yisrael in the Midbar. Past 2,000 amot is a violation of Tchum Shabbat if you are leaving city limits. It's about 5/8 of a mile. The Mishnah tells us there are 2 months during the year, Al Shnei Chodashim Mechalalin et HaShabbat, that if the witnesses saw the new moon on Friday night, they were further out past Tchum Shabbat, they were allowed to violate this halacha and travel to the Sanhedrin, to the Beit Din, to let them know when Rosh Chodesh was. What are these 2 months? So the Mishnah tells us Al Nisan Al Tishrei, the month of Nisan, which of course has the Yontif of Pesach, and also, as discussed in the previous Mishnah, we're concerned that people know exactly when Rosh Chodesh Nisan was because they have to be aware of the time where they're no longer allowed to eat chametz, as well as the other mitzvahs of eating matzah and having a seder, Haggadah. And the other month is Al Tishrei, the month of Tishrei. Again, people need to be aware when Yom Kippur is, when Sukkot are, and all of the Chagim. So in those 2 months, because we're so concerned of the exactness of the dates in those 2 months, that if the witnesses saw the new moon on Friday night and they were outside 2,000 amot, which is a violation of Tchum Shabbat, they were allowed to violate the halacha and come to the Beis Din and come to the Sanhedrin and let them know that they saw the new moon. Why? Shebahen, in these months, Hashluchim Yotzim l'Surya. The messengers will be sent to Syria and beyond. What does that mean? Because of the importance of these months, here we have a map of the Middle East. Here you have Iraq, and here you have Iran. Iraq, in the time of the post-Beit HaMikdash era, was Babel. Iran was Persia, and there were many Jewish communities in these areas. So they would send the messengers to these areas to make sure that they knew when the Chagim were, when Rosh Chodesh was declared. Because these months, again, were the months of the Chagim, and we wanted to make sure that all of the Jews celebrated the Chagim properly. As the Mishnah continues, Ubahen metakmim et hamoadot. As we see in the picture, the calendar was impacted by making sure everybody knows when Rosh Chodesh Tishrei was and when Rosh Chodesh Nisan. The entire Magal HaShanah depended on that, as we have the Chagim of Tishrei and of course the Chagim of Nisan, and all the other Chagim and all other relevant halachot came about because Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Rosh Chodesh Tishrei was celebrated in the right time, and everybody knew exactly when to celebrate those times. Then the Mishnah adds one other idea. Up until now, the Mishnah is talking about the time after the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. However, the Mishnah tells us in this Mishnah, Keshahaya Beit HaMikdash Kayam, when the Beit HaMikdash was standing, as we see a picture of what probably the Beit HaMikdash looked like. When the Beit HaMikdash was standing, the Mishnah tells us, Mechalalin af al kulan mipnei takanat hakorban, that every month the witnesses were allowed to violate Tchum Shabbos and walk more than 2,000 amot in order to let Beis Din know when Rosh Chodesh was and that they saw the new moon. Why? Something called takanat hakorban. What does it mean, takanat hakorban? Every Rosh Chodesh, they had to give a special korban in the Beit HaMikdash, known as the Korban Musaf. In fact, any day during the year that we daven Musaf, that means in the time of the Beit HaMikdash, on that day they gave an an additional korban besides the 2 korbanot that were known as the korban tameh that was brought each and every day. So in order to make sure that the korbanot were brought in its proper time, if witnesses saw in the time of the Beit HaMikdash the new moon on Friday night, for every month of the year, didn't matter, not only in Tishrei and in Nisan, as the Mishnah described already, but every month of the year, they were allowed to come and tell Beit Din on Shabbos morning, if they got there, that today is Rosh Chodesh, to make sure that the proper korban was brought. That concludes the discussion of Mishnah Dal.